national and even international businesses decide to set up shop in Kern County. Well, so this is the episode of Job Talk for you. My name is Brandon Evans, and I'm the Director of Employer Training Resource, the county's Chief Workforce Development Officer, but you can just call me the Job Guy. And today we have a very special guest, none other than the President and CEO of the Kern Economic Development Corporation, Mr. Richard Chapman. Richard, welcome.
Thank you, Brandon. We're very excited to be here. I'm very excited. And also honored to have you serve on the Kern EDC board.
Yeah, I'm excited about being on the board. Working alongside you is amazing. And speaking of amazing, you have some amazing.
Well, we got our Where Business is Boundless socks, which you have the first iteration of. Then we pivoted to the second. And so what these socks do is basically show the logos of our major industries. So we're going to be talking about the industries that really drive Kern County's economy. But, I think it's always great to have our Where Business is Boundless socks on display.
Hey, marketing everywhere.
Yeah, right.
So before we get into what you and your team do to attract new business, to really reinforce existing business, let's give the audience a chance to learn a little bit more about you. How did you go from being such a stud in high school that you literally had
the opposite.
Your own page in the yearbook, your own
there
page,
you go.
Just the yearbook,
Right.
All the way to becoming president and CEO of Gaines.
Well, it helps when you have a school class of 13 people. That's why I always say I was third in my class, and then pause out of 13. But yes, so we each got half a page in our yearbook. Because in North Carolina, I grew up in a town called Pinehurst, North Carolina, which some people may know is the golf capital of the world. And so it's basically a retirement town, which is great when you're retired. But my dream was always to go to a big city. And golf is in my family's genes, except it stopped when it got to me. My grandfather was called the Ben Hogan of amateur golf, played the Masters 19 times, won U.S., British, amateur, etc. My dad broke par at 12, and then there's me. So I've never broken 80, but that's okay. I have other things to do during the daylight hours. That's my excuse. But yeah, my dream was to go to a big city. I went to Georgetown University back in the 80s. So you may remember Pat Ewing, Hoyas were power, although I was a Tar Heels fan. And, thrown into Georgetown where most of the students were, studying calculus way before I even learned what that meant. And so it was very, very challenging, but also it was a great part of my journey, just to be at a large city, such a metropolis, right? People from around the world.
Can you tell us what a Hoya is?
What's rock? I know you see a bulldog, but I still haven't figured it out, even though I'm an alum. So it's Latin, something about what rock. But maybe we can do underneath the subtitles, explain what that is. But my father came from an investment banking background, same for his father. So the dream was to work on Wall Street. Now this is, remember in the 80s, the famous movie Wall Street, where they said greed is good, right? Maybe that was before your time, Michael Douglas. But and one of the things we'll talk about today, internships. And so I actually interned in New York City, living in the suburbs several summers. And 1987 was actually when the crash occurred. But I realized actually Prudential Security was an amazing internship. But I realized that wasn't the life for me. Commuting 2 hours each way, finance. I didn't know it was my major. I had other interests, especially research, customer service, having networking connections. So, but I ended up working at Prudential in D.C. full time at the research office. And the fact that I had interned in New York at that company really helped me get the full-time job. And we'll talk about that, how internships help shape your career, maybe in ways you want to go into or not. So I did work at Prudential, covering the Hill. We covered the budget deficit, as well as international economics, FDA, Food and Drug Administration here. Fascinating. Anyway, I proceeded to get my MBA at American University. My wife, I met at Georgetown. I speak 4 languages. I speak 1. She studied game theory, so that means I can't win an argument. And then we moved to Seattle in the mid 90s. You can imagine how vibrant that city was. It was considered the media darling. There were covers of national publications saying everybody's moving to Seattle, and the music scene was obviously blossoming in terms of grunge music, the restaurants, but in terms of the economy, which was really what I was interested in, had the great fortune of working for the Economic Development Council of Seattle King County, starting in '95, and we literally had about 1,000 companies a year calling, saying, "Hey, sell us on your region," which they were already halfway sold. Yeah. But at that day, before you had a lot of information on the internet. We basically were doing like 40-page reports in terms of RFIs, right, showing the value proposition, responding to our clients' needs, and but also showing that the local companies were very happy there, and showing that this was the place for your business to succeed. So that was just a wonderful, fascinating time where the stars were lining for that region.
So you're basically saying you're responsible for Microsoft.
Yeah. Well, obviously you think about economic development corporations. How do they start? And for Seattle, it was in 1970 when there was a famous billboard said the last person out, turn off the lights, because Boeing, that was the thing with Boeing downsizing, right? That economy also was pretty much based on aerospace, but also think about natural resources, logging, right? In terms of these economies, and so those economies were struggling, and so that EDC started in 1970 in response by the community leaders. Kern EDC started in 1987. What are the similarities, right? Well, oil is at $10 a barrel. Right. Commodity prices were at an all-time low. So this is the thing that economic development groups are so important, because it's business, government, and education working together. Amazon, by the way, was in an old hospital, and they were selling books. And we were thinking, well, we already have Borders and Barnes & Noble. But, of course, Bezos was building that infrastructure, the logistics infrastructure, to not just sell books, of course. But, yeah, we lost Boeing's headquarters, and it was a wake-up call. And that's what the message is, that, we can never be too comfortable as a region and take companies for granted, and really just work as hard as we can, not just to recruit, right, but to retain jobs. 80% of job growth in any region are from our companies right here. You know that very well. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, now you have folks that'll talk about Kern, and Kern needs to diversify and all of that. Well, again, you said 1987?
That's when the EDC was started.
Right. And so you think back to 1987, there's definitely a recognition that we can't rely only on oil and ag, and needing to, diversify the portfolio, so to speak.
Well, and then you see studies showing that we're number 3 most diversified economy, because you fold in East Kern, and that gets you to one of the most diversified economies in the country.
Right. Yeah. So let's do this. Let's talk. In your time as head, president, CEO of Kern EDC, what are some of the major accomplishments that, if you had to list some of them, what would they be?
Well, I think, we can look at the projects, of course, right, over the years, we have most recent ones: Pacific Steel, Hard Rock, Nestle Cold Storage, right, Niagara Bottling, and then you look at in terms of they're mainly industrial projects and manufacturing. These are manufacturing logistics throughout the county. And so, we have it's wonderful to be at the table. And our thing is we're at the table, but there's so many other partners, right? And the beauty is that the public sector and private sector mainly work in concert, right? You're getting the cities and the county to approve these projects that are just affecting change and improving the quality of life. And so we see our just ability to have 30 to 35 active projects today. That's in terms of thousands of jobs, billions of dollars of capital investment. We're not going to land every one, right? But the wonderful part is that we have just such strong support in the region. And we have, I'll talk about NIMBYism. So you know what NIMBY is, right?
In my backyard.
There you go. And then there's the term banana.
I think Supervisor Couch knows that one better than I do.
Build absolutely nothing anywhere near anybody.
There you go.
So we don't have, we have these projects that like Pacific Steel and Hard Rock and others that have basically virtually no organized opposition. And versus you go one county over and you will have significant opposition. I forgot to mention too recently, Caldera is one of the most advanced, if not most advanced, dairy manufacturing plants in the country. And I want to add that we have the educational partners too. We know CTEC, Career Tech Ed, ROC. That CTEC is probably the most advanced facility of its kind in the country. We have delegations from around the world that come there. So it's so amazing to showcase. Yes, we have these iconic businesses. Then we look at East Kern, right, and the aerospace. Look at the energy, right. Look at what we have in terms of these engines like China Lake, Edwards, NASA, and Mojave's Air and Spaceport. Many cases, some of the more PhDs almost anywhere per capita in the country. So we should be very proud. We've had recently, state delegations come down, and I think they're really just eyes are open.
Yeah, they were floored. Super impressed. And it's interesting when you mentioned CTEC. Here in an episode or two, we'll have them on to talk about their great programs.
Right, because these students they're in high school, they're working, they're getting internships during that time, and also soft skills. And not everybody takes the path of a 4-year degree, 2-year degree. Maybe it's the high school degree. I also have the privilege of being the director of our foundation. And our foundation started about a year after I came to Kern County, and it's really developed into an amazing different board, and their mission is more on workforce development. KDC's on capital investment, jobs, and tax revenue. The foundation has, we partner with the high school district on the Career and STEM Expo, entering its 5th year. I hope everyone watching this will sign up. We have about 150 exhibitors, 3,500 students. We want our kids to see what's in Kern County, and we want the employers to see, wow, like these kids are, engaged, committed, and so it's a day of learning. We also have Kern Intern Connections, which I talk about internships. The number one attribute that employers are looking for, did the student have a paid internship? And so we're able to basically, many occasions, support, pay for full internships or partial with primarily manufacturers. Now we have cities at the table and other sectors to place STEM interns. And also we supply gas cards in many occasions. So we're very excited about our ability to affect workforce development. Final part is women in STEM, where women are underrepresented in Kern STEM careers. We're trying to change that by how women in STEM can mentor the next generation.
Yeah, so whether you're talking about the Women in STEM or Career in STEM Expo, let's stay on that for a little bit.
Right.
Talk about other events that Kern EDC is at the head of the spear.
Right, and the wonderful thing about Kern is folks are always very hungry for new. Try this initiative, and let's see if it succeeds. And on most occasions, these events initiatives have just received actually acclaim, but also national, international recognition. Yeah. So we have the Energy Summit, which is entering our 20th year. And that is actually the largest energy summit on the West Coast. And so it's amazing how that's moved forward. Remember, we are the number one renewable energy county in the country in terms of production. And also we're in the top 15 for oil and gas. And so it's basically a part of this energy evolution. And so it's coming up in November. And we should be proud of, right? They say we power, feed, and fuel the country or the state, but our green electrons are, what is it, 60, 70, almost 70% are of the renewable energy is from Kern County, and 75% of the oil and gas. So we need to be, how do we all become, these ambassadors to tell the story, real story, the true story of Kern County?
Yeah, so let's jump on that. I know that you're always going to customize your message related to what we offer in Kern to any potential business looking at this area. But what are some of the main themes that you're always going to hit with them to help them understand what a great investment
Right.
is to come here?
Well, I think the main thing is, we talk about how they're, how receptive we are for the investment, and how we see that, again, their projects are able to move at, time is money. And you see how these, still we deal with Sequent, right? We still deal with Sequent and others. But just the general support and appreciation, because we do have international companies, as you said, coming here. And with every single time that I recall, they are effusive about the reception that they've been given. And again, they're bringing billions of dollars. We got a great project, Hydro Store, so that as that moved forward, just the CEC, I know, approved of the project in terms of power license. So, and so that's a wonderful thing, because again, you have government, business, education, all three working together. And they'll tell, that's the testimonial that they have. So that encourages future investment, because that's what we always hear, that, this company had a great experience in Kern, and so I'm interested in investing in your economy.
Yeah, that's excellent. So can you, I know that sometimes this can be confidential, but is there anything about this process? When do you find out about somebody in their interest? Are they still calling? Do we get 1,000 calls a year?
Wow.
And like kind of walk people through, because I think, we get the headlines and here's the new big business, Pacific Steel, 450 permanent jobs, 2,000 indirect jobs, like all of this. But how did they get it?
Yeah.
Like, how did you get in contact with them? What is that process?
Yeah, it happens. So I'm glad you had a great question, because each case is different. I mean, frankly, Pacific Steel, as the first call they made was to Kern EDC. And I remember, and they said, we're interested, a steel mill, Mojave region. And we're like, okay, well, there hasn't been one in 50 years in the state. And that from day one, they were pretty like, this is the name of the company. We're excited. We want to meet folks in the community. Other projects, we sign NDAs. But at a certain point, I mean, we literally, sometimes you get to ribbon cutting and they're like, no. And we're like, well, you got your logo on the building. But we're very, we understand the sensitivity, and we have projects and names for all companies, even if it's well known what those companies are. But a lot of times we're on the short list. So Melinda Brown, our vice president, she's been here over 20 years. She travels around the country to basically meet with site selectors and developers. Yes, we go to industry trade shows, but the real exciting part is sitting down with in Dallas, New York, Chicago, and promoting Kern County. We have an 8-county region called Central California Valley EDC, going decades strong, and we're probably the only, I believe, region in California that is out there trying to encourage new investment in the state, and out there at least a coordinated group. And so that has been going on strong for much of the time. And we literally, 4 years after she meets somebody, we'll get a call from a site selection consultant or from a corporate, real estate exec, and saying, hey, we want to come look at Kern County. Right. So we pretty much know these projects, the likelihood of landing them. If they're only looking at California, we think we can win that battle. Yeah. Now, if they're looking at 5 other states, right. It is, our challenges are obviously in terms of utility rates are relatively high, and obviously state taxes. But what we can do locally, many times that is enough to get it to the finish line.
Yeah, well said. If we're competing with Nevada,
Right.
business climate may be more friendly in Nevada.
Yes.
But if we know they want to come to California,
Right.
then now we're talking Kern.
Yes, and by the way, we are the population center of the state. So it's in Shafter. Shafter, that means the equal number of people north, south, east, west. And so that's why logistics, right, is so at such a growing. The last decade it was the fastest growing industry, and looking forward, healthcare is going to be probably the fastest growing. But again, logistics and manufacturing are projected to grow at a significant pace.
Yeah, so I have to. We'll talk healthcare
Yeah.
because I know you got a summit coming up. But I'm going to flex for a second.
Okay.
During my brief stint with NEDC, I want to personally take credit for bringing Performance Food Group.
Oh yeah, PFG.
Yes.
Okay,
And
I think we have that on the wall.
There you go. Well, while I was there, a couple great guys from Tennessee came and we did the tour.
Yeah.
And it was very cold in that car, and I don't mean temperature-wise.
Not cold storage.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, pun fully intended. Right? And but the conversation wasn't going anywhere. Interestingly enough, we pull over for a stop, and I had a buddy that was going to
Yeah.
Freed-Hardeman University back in Tennessee,
Okay.
and Peyton Manning was
right.
the volunteer quarterback. And I asked them, I started talking about that, and they completely. Their tenor changed a lot, because I say that only because I think sometimes these businesses, especially in the South, they think California and they think only San Francisco, LA.
Right,
and
right.
They in the sense that people in Kern are a little different. I think it's helpful.
They don't, yeah, and that's a great point that though I love about Kern County is, we have 2-hour lunches, and we get to know, our clients. We get to know obviously the members or, constituents, and I tell my staff, learn 3 things about everyone you work with. Like, not just what business, but hey, what are your hobbies? Because you're going to be able to find a connect. I mean, I grew up in a golf town, so obviously I'm going to find somebody that probably loves golf.
Yes.
So I can say what a bad golfer I am, but what my grandfather's. But you always can find something, right, or a city you lived in, and I encourage, right, you like to do research beyond just what the company does. Think about LinkedIn. You're about to meet Site Select or a company. Go to LinkedIn. Find out, hey, where do they study? Where do they, where do they grow up? Right. And so, as you said, that is really something so important versus this kind of transactional based relationship. And I think they really do appreciate that.
Yeah, I think they do. Once you know that somebody got to watch Pat Ewing and George,
right?
They kind of differently.
Even though I was, we had James Worthy,
yeah,
and Michael Jordan, and then Villanova beat them that year, right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean that, think about basketball. We can do another show, but where the players used to stay 3 or 4 years, and so you have this affinity, right? And I don't know if Pat Ewing would stay how many years, 3 or 4, I think 3 years. Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, right, find these areas of commonality. Right. And then you just have you have a bond based on that.
That's right, 1,000%. So let's you mentioned the healthcare industry is going to continue to take a more prominent role. Kern EDC is addressing that.
Well, we're one of many partners. It's exciting. On March the 3rd, the inaugural healthcare summit. We have business education and working together. Obviously, government's part of that too, is like all these capital projects, making sure that they move forward. And the beauty of Kern County on the healthcare side is, guess what? Odds are you're not going to have to go over the mountain. You have these services here. I mean, that's the most important thing, right? Making sure that our residents have the healthcare, that ecosystem is going to be able to support them in their time of need. So you're going to be finding out about various projects in the pipeline, education, how that's aligning, right, with the industry, even medical, technical, but AI, how that impacts. And so much like the Energy Summit, the great thing about the Healthcare Summit, it's that half day of learning and then of networking. And economic summit's coming up, by the way, in May. That's with the CFUB and Greater Chamber and ourselves. we're working on exciting topics. And that's people want to network here. Our organization started East Kern Economic Alliance. Yeah. When I first started, what I heard was, hey, you're West Kern, great, but what about East Kern? Yeah. And when I looked at East Kern, I couldn't believe the innovation. In fact, the tagline is Innovation Rising. Yeah. So we've created that, but now we have the West Kern Economic Alliance. That is because we have 8 communities that are at the table, and it's the three parties, right? Business, education, government. We also lead the manufacturing lines of Kern, and this is what we see in Kern, that there's the need for these different types of networking. As I said, getting to know each other. Right. There's B2B, of course, but it's something that it goes beyond just scrolling on your smartphone, or emailing somebody, but it's actually having sit-downs and conversations.
Yeah, awesome. So I would be remiss if I didn't give you a chance to talk about your much more high-quality podcast, Channel 17 News. Like, talk about. I'm
trying to understand what's the difference between a podcast and a TV series.
I don't know. What do you call
originally, I thought podcast was only audio,
right,
but there's video.
Yes.
And then we have our series, but people call it a talk show.
Okay.
But it's.
So are you the Jane Leno?
Well, it's. We can have a longer one, like what is the Bill Maher one or something that he has, where it's at beyond his show, where he has a sit down like this. Yeah. But yeah, so. So one thing that we realize is.
Don't get a cigar.
I think they have a cocktail while they're on the show. One thing we don't have a business journal in Kern County. So one of my dreams, and I'm so appreciative of our board's support, was to launch this show called Where Business is Boundless. And this was based on the branding. Many years ago, remember, the communities worked together. You had chambers, you had county, you had cities, you had private sector, EDC. We all worked to create a common brand, so I believe it was North Star came in, and they said, actually, they've done hundreds of campaigns, and they said, we were the only region that really played in the sandbox, right? The terms of the turf battles. So that was great. But I realized, okay, we got a brand, but how do we? Many people that you and I talk to are unaware that the first steel mill in 50 years, even today. That's right. Some people may be not aware of even these large projects that there's an opportunity for our residents to maybe move into that transferability skill. There's these jobs that are open. Also vendors. Vendors, these companies want to hire local, right? Yes. And so these vendors aren't aware. So the show we created, it's 5 to 6 minutes. It's focused on why this company, chose Kern County. What are their future plans? We've had industrial, we've had recreational. We have Pacific Steel coming back again. We have the Kern Raceway in terms of the Kevin Harvick event coming up in next month, and we have the recreation entertainment, but also we have the industrial side, and we're gonna have cities on this year. So why not have we have 11 cities in Kern County. Yeah. Tell what's in their plans. But it's really exciting. We get about 20,000 viewers. And we push it out to our network, and that's why we have socks, right? But it's been a wonderful experience, and every time I'm like, okay, who's on net? I get so many people that want to come on the show, and they're always great storytellers. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. And then you also, Kern EDC is known for the graphics and all these things that you guys produce.
Top graphic design companies, I believe, in the country are in our backyard.
Yeah, well, I don't know who could argue with that.
Which we have. Yeah, I brought a little prop.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I brought our.
What do you have?
This is our award-winning Kern County, market overview and member directory. So we obviously we use as much stock as we can, photo stock of local scenery. That is a local company, and then our website as well. I don't know if I can say the names.
Please
So
do.
this is Marcom.
Okay.
We use Saba Agency for our
Great,
website,
great.
e-media, fact sheets, Proforma. So we have so many amazing, right in our backyard. And that's the lesson, right? We're launching a new video series. I'm not in that. So 90 seconds, and part of our strategic plan. And we'll have focused on companies, 10 companies. Why did you select Kern?
Right.
And so we actually have an RFQ out now, and telling the companies telling the story, right? Just going to the site and finding out the reasons why Kern County works for them.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's great to have such amazing, like we have a great workforce. We have some of the lowest turnover rates in the country. So right in our backyard, we have state of the art. We have artists, we have innovators, scientists, you name it.
Yeah, so I was born here, you weren't. You just mentioned companies, why does Kern work for you? Just personally, obviously professionally blends in, but why has Kern been a good fit for you?
Because, again, as an economic developer, I mean, it's a great place to raise a family, of course. My daughter grew up here. She's a composer. I remember went to a local school called Harmony Road as a young kid, and ended up now going to the New England Conservatory of Music. But having that access, right? Having 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. My wife being able to, homeschool her, and just being able to engage in so many local activities, which are important for homeschooled students.
Right.
And but in terms of business, most regions you have a great project, and then there's so many landmines ahead, and as I said, opposition that you're not sure if you're going to be able to move it forward. So here, if we actually get somebody of interest, I know that the coalition will come together to support it. I mean, think about cool things like Lightning in a Bottle that came here many years ago. And we always talk about new money, right? So do you know what percentage of people that come to Lightning in a Bottle Festival are not from Kern County?
82%.
98.
Oh, okay.
So that's new money, right? We were at the Raceway the other day. They get like 80% out. That's new money. Hard Rock, it's going to be 2 million visitors. And so that the new money coming in, we're starting to measure that. And so that's it. There's appreciation for folks to come in and spend money. And it's not, again, this NIMBYism into visitors. I remember Seattle had a Lesser Seattle movement. They said, hey, come visit, but don't move here. And but it's interesting, branding. So think about Seattle. What do you know Seattle for in terms of what are they known for? Not music, but weather-wise.
Yeah, rain, drizzle.
Okay, they get less rain than any East Coast city, right? Did you know that?
No, I did not.
So that's the thing. So there's perception versus the reality. But they're happy promoting that because they don't want people to move there. But it's cloudy, I grant it.
Is.
But with Kern County and Bakersfield, we know that if somebody comes, we'll win them over.
Yeah.
So our key is to win them over. One of our new campaigns, part of our new strategy, is air quality. We've had a vast improvement in air quality over the years. There's still some folks that say, "Oh yeah, it hasn't changed." We can show the data that has really moved, and so you'll see we did one of our shows on this, but also we're gonna have upcoming in terms of our fact sheets and the like. And you look at the data, and we typically have in terms of moderate to good days, we have more AQI good moderate days than LA or Riverside, and that's using 2024 data. But we're still labeled, right, in terms of that designation, number one, not on a good list, right?
Yeah, so the things that we're good at, we're staying good, and even things that historically have been kind of a stain, efforts are being made to clean that up.
Right, and so there's been, I think, $40 billion spent. There's 700 measures, so there's just been, and so we graphically can show that, and we're still moving, right? There's work to be done, but there's really commitment. I think they looked at stationary emissions and decreased 97% since 1980, 97%. So we're still working, but that's the thing we need to know is how do we promote the good things happening in Kern County and Bakersfield?
Yeah, so you've been able to cover a lot. Is there anything that you'd like to share?
No, I would just encourage you to sign up for our free newsletter. Again, since we don't have a business journal, we push out a lot of these stories. We want people to be aware of companies looking here, that are coming here, but also during the development and then after they're set up. Again, potential employees need to know about the opportunity. I mean, Hard Rock hiring 2,000, Pacific Steel hiring, I think 400. Yeah. And if they're not aware of that, so the employers are not going to get the applicants, and the potential applicants are not going to be aware of these amazing upward mobility opportunities. Right. And so that's the thing I want to make sure that like when you talk to anybody at lunch, talk about these projects, see if they know about them. Right. And again, also East Kern, Mojave's an hour away, right? We have to, that's the main thing. It's funny, when I go to LA, I'm in Santa Monica, and they say, oh, you're in Bakersfield? And they're like, are you going home tonight? And I'm like, I'll be home before you. Live in Burbank, I'll be home before you. So talk drive time. We always talk drive time. We are 100 miles from LA. So don't say you're, that 100 miles, which is what we can make it in 2 hours. That's right. That's right. And so that's the other one thing. We have this kind of dichotomy. Are we in Southern California or are we in Central California? Because we're the center population, but many maps say we're in Southern California. But I'm optimistic because of our economic diversity, because of the STEM jobs available not just for college, but for high school kids. I think that's so important in terms of the American dream.
Yeah. So how does somebody get a hold of you or Kern EDC?
Hold of me? Well, Kern.
Kern EDC. I mean, they may want you to be keynote speaker.
Oh, I just want to be. My main thing is we identify people that we think would be good speakers, and we oftentimes are approached. We also are Melinda Brown's co-chair of the Kern Transportation Foundation. They have a conference coming up. But there's so many amazing events. On our website, we list our events, but we really do want our residents to be aware of the story of Kern County and how I think there should be optimism. But there's opportunity, right? So that's the reason for the optimism. But KernEDC.com. There you go. Sounds good.
So you don't have jobs if you don't have new employers and existing employers that are expanding. And so what Kern EDC is able to do both with business attraction as well as helping local businesses expand is just super crucial about all things jobs related. Richard, we're so thankful to have you with us today.
I should thank you for your leadership, and a privilege to be on your board and see how you're moving the needle. It's great, the partnership, and that's another important point of how Kern County evolves in the next 10 to 20 years.
Well, yeah, working together. Yep. You bring the businesses in, and we'll try to staff them up.
Okay, there you go. It's a deal.
Until next time, when you're talking jobs, talk job talk.